children, welcome to Nagesh Karasgi Orchid School channel. We are back here to learn history lesson number 7, that is tribes, nomads and settled communities. In previous chapters like lesson number 2, kings and kingdoms, we learnt about kings and kingdoms. Lesson number 3, the Delhi Sultans, we learnt about Delhi Sultans. Then again we learnt Mughal Empire, then rulers, buildings and everything. So now we learn more about kings, empires and everyone. Let us learn about some other people. Those are tribal people, nomads and their settled communities. So let us start with the lesson. Lesson number 7, page number 91. So let us start reading the lesson. Tribes, nomads and settled communities. By the title itself you should understand about what we are learning. Tribes, tribal people, those who live in forests, hills, mountains are tribes. Nomads, the people who move from one place to another place are nomads, and there are other settled communities also we are going to learn. Now let us start. I will read the lesson and try to explain you. Again we are going to watch video. By video you will understand more properly about the lesson. You saw in chapters 2, 3 and 4 how kingdoms rose, fell even as this was happening. We learnt in previous lessons how kingdoms, they rose, they flourished and how they declined also, even as this was happening. New arts, crafts and production activities flourished in towns and villages. Even in previous lesson we learned about towns, traders and craft persons, how their art, craft and production flourished, how the small villages they became towns. This also we have learnt. Over the centuries, important political, social and economic developments had taken place. Yes, this also we know that from over the centuries, political, social and economic developments had taken place. But social change was not the same everywhere. So, because different kinds of societies evolved differently, it is different to understand how and why and this happened. Now, here we are going to learn about the societies, how they different societies have evolved and what important to it is very important to understand how and why and this happened. In large parts of the subcontinent, society was already divided according to the rules of Varna. So, in 6th standard we have learnt about Varna. What is Varna? Varna is the division of society according to their caste, based on their caste and according to their occupation, tradition and family backgrounds. So, by this Varna, so divided according to the Varna. These rules as prescribed by the Brahmanas were accepted by the rulers of large kingdoms. Now, these rules who prescribed? Brahmanas, and who were accepted by the rulers of all large kingdoms. The difference between the high and low and between the rich and the poor increased. Under the Delhi Sultans and the Mughals, this hierarchy between social classes grew further. So, the difference was between the high and the low, rich and the poor, and under the Delhi Sultans and Mughals also this ranking system, hierarchy between social classes grew further. Now, next part is, you can see here tribes, nomads and settled communities. Some images they have given. Tribal dance. Okay. Now we will go to next topic, that is beyond big cities, tribal societies. Now what is meant by beyond big cities? We have learnt in previous chapter about some of the towns like Masulipattnam, Hampi. So now we are going to learn beyond, means leaving those, apart from those cities, we are going to read about tribal societies. There were however other kinds of societies as well. Many societies in the subcontinent did not follow the social rules and rituals prescribed by the Brahmanas, nor were they divided into numerous unequal classes. Such societies are often called tribes. So there were however other kinds of societies as well. Many societies in the subcontinent did not follow the social rules and rituals prescribed by, all were not following, which were prescribed by Brahmanas, nor were they divided into numerous unequal classes also. Such societies are often called tribes. Now you have understood what are tribes, who are tribes, tribal people. Now members of each tribe were united by kinship bonds, means they have their blood relations. Kinship bonds means blood relation. Many tribes obtained their livelihood from agriculture. So they used to do the farming and obtain their livelihood. Others were hunter gatherers or herders. Most often they combined these activities to make full use of the natural resources of the area in which they lived. Now some were doing agriculture and others somewhere they were performing, they were hunter gatherers and herders also. Most often they combined these activities also to make full use of the natural resources. Whatever the natural resources they were getting, they used to take the benefit of the area where they were living. Some tribes were nomadic and moved from one place to another. A tribal group controlled land and pastures jointly and divided these amongst household according to its rules. Now some tribes were nomadic also. What is nomadic? They move from one place to another. A tribal group controlled land and pastures jointly and they divided these amongst households, means amongst themselves according to their own rules. Now many large tribes thrived in different parts of the subcontinent. Now here many large tribes thrived. Thrive means they prospered in different parts of the subcontinent. They usually lived in forests, hills, deserts and places difficult to reach. Where they live in forests, hills, deserts and places which is very difficult for us to reach. Sometimes they clashed with the more powerful caste based societies also. In various ways the tribes retained their freedom and preserved their separate culture. Mostly they were trying to remain separate. They used to follow their own culture. They used to have their own rules. They were retaining, they were trying to get freedom from other castes. But the caste based and tribal societies also depended on each other for their diverse needs. This relationship of conflict and dependence gradually caused both societies to change. But caste based and tribal societies also depended, for some of the things they have to depend on each other for their needs. This relationship of conflict and dependence gradually caused both societies to change. Now for some of the things they have to change their societies. Who were tribal people? Contemporary historians and travelers give very scanty information about tribes. Now very less information we are getting. Contemporary means the people, those who used to live at that time, those historians and travelers, they give scanty information. A few exceptions apart, tribal people did not keep written records, but they preserved rich customs and oral traditions. These were passed down to each new generation. Present day historians have started using such oral traditions to write tribal histories. So, actually regarding their life much information was not collected, but the tribal people did not keep any records also, but preserved some rich customs and oral traditions. These were passed down to each new generation. By generation we are coming to know by these rich customs and oral traditions. Present day historians have started using such oral traditions to write tribal histories. Now, tribal people were found in almost every region of the subcontinent. The area and influence of tribe varied at different points of time. Some powerful tribes controlled large territories. In Punjab, the Khokar tribe was very influential during the 13th and 14th centuries. Later, the Ghakkars became more important. The chief Kamal Khan Ghakkar was made a noble Mansabdar by Emperor Akbar. In Multan and Sindh, the Langas and Arghwans dominated extensive regions before they were subdued by the Mughals. The Balochis were another large and powerful tribe in the northwest. They were divided into many smaller clans under different chiefs. In the western Himalaya lived the shepherd tribe of Gaddis. The distant northeastern part of the subcontinent too was entirely dominated by tribes, the Nagas, Ahoms and many others. Now, here clan means a clan is a group of families or a household claiming descent from a common ancestor. Tribal organization is often based on kinship, means I told blood relation, and clan loyalties. What is clan? Clan is a group of families or households claiming their ancestors, the rule of their ancestors. So, here you can see in the western Himalayas lived shepherd tribe of Gaddis. The distant northeastern part of the subcontinent too was entirely dominated by tribes. Who are those? The Nagas, Ahoms and many others. So, here you can see the maps. In the map, location of some of the major Indian tribes. In this map it is shown. Now, next paragraph. In many areas of present day Bihar and Jharkhand, chiefdoms had emerged by the 12th century. Raja Man Singh, Akbar's famous general, attacked and defeated the Chiros in 1591. A large amount of booty was taken from them, but they were not entirely subdued. Under Aurangzeb, Mughal forces captured many Chiro fortresses and subjugated the tribe. The Mundas and the Santals were among the other important tribes that lived in this region and also in Orissa and Bengal. In many areas present day it is Bihar and Jharkhand, Chiro chiefdoms had emerged by the 12th century. In the 12th century, Chiro chiefdoms emerged. Raja Man Singh, Akbar's famous general, what he did? He attacked and defeated the Chiros in 1591. A large amount of booty, means wealth, was looted from them, was taken from them, but they were not entirely subdued, but they were not entirely destroyed. They were still remaining. Under Aurangzeb's Mughal forces captured many Chiro fortresses. Means what? So, and subjugated. What is mean by subjugated? Bring under control. And here fortresses means fortified forts. The Mundas and the Santlas were among the other important tribes that lived in this region and also in Orissa and Bengal. Now, next paragraph, page number 94. The Maharashtra, Highlands and Karnataka were homes to Kolis, Berads and numerous others. Kolis also lived in many areas of Gujarat. Further south, there were large tribal populations of Koragas, Vetras, Marwaras and many others. Try to read properly, bit difficult to pronounce, but try to read. So, in Maharashtra, Highlands and Karnataka were homes to Kolis, Berads and numerous others. Kolis also lived in many areas of Gujarat. Further south, there were large tribal population of Koragas, Vetras, Maravaras and many others. Means these the names given to tribal people. The large tribe of Bhils was spread across western and central India. By the late 16th century, many of them had become settled agriculturalists and some even zamindars. Many Bhil clans nevertheless remained hunter-gatherers. The Gonds were found in great numbers across the present day states of Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. So, see, the large tribes of Bhils was spread across western and central India even. By the late 16th century, many of them had become settled agriculturalists. They used to do agriculture and some even they became zamindars. Many Bhil clans nevertheless means what? However, they remained hunter-gatherers only. The Gonds were found in great numbers across the present day states of Chhattisgarh in Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. You can see the hunting, the people hunting. Now, how nomads and mobile people lived. See, nomadic pastoralists moved over long distances with their animals. They lived on milk and other pastoral products. They also exchanged wool, ghee, etc. with settled agriculturalists for grain, cloth, utensil and other products. So, here now nomads, those who move from one place to another, that is, and mobile people means the same. The nomadic pastoralists means those who domesticate the animals like sheep, goat, camel, etc. moved from long distances with their animals. They lived on milk and other pastoral products like milk, ghee, whatever they get from those animals. They also exchanged wool from sheep. We get wool from sheep, ghee also from milk. They used to exchange these products with settled agriculturalists and they used to take grains, cloth, utensils and other products from them. Now, Bhils hunting deer by night. Here this is how they are hunting. Okay, this picture. Now, figure 3. A chain of mobile traders connected India to outside world. Here you see nuts being gathered and loaded on the backs of camels. Central Asian traders brought such goods to India and Banjaras and other traders carried these to local markets. Here you can see the pictures, the loaded, how the nuts are loaded on camel. They bought and sold these goods as they moved from one place to another, transporting them on their animals. The Banjaras were the most important trader nomads. Their caravan was called Tanda. Sultan Alauddin Khalji, in chapter 3 we read it, used the Banjaras to transport grain to the city markets. Emperor Jahangir wrote in his memories that the Banjaras carried grain on their bullocks from different areas and sold it in towns. They transported food grains for the Mughal army during military campaigns. With a large army, there could be 1 lakh bullocks carrying grains. Now, the Banjaras were the most important trader nomads. Their caravan means groups made was called Tanda. Sultan Alauddin Khalji used the Banjaras to transport grains to the city markets. Emperor Jahangir wrote in his memories that Banjaras carried grains on their bullocks from different areas and sold it in towns. They transported food grains for Mughal army during military campaigns. With a large army, there could be 1 lakh bullocks carrying the grains. So, in this way, it is described about trader nomads, about Banjaras. Now, it is written, see, Peter Mundy, an English trader who came to India during the early 17th century, has described the Banjaras. How he described? Let us see. In the morning, we met Tanda of Banjaras, which 14,000 oxen. They were all laden with grains such as wheat and rice. These Banjaras carry their household wives and children along with them. One Tanda consists of many families, means groups here, family groups. Their way of life is similar to that of carriers who continuously travel from place to place. They own their oxen. They are sometimes hired by merchants, but most commonly they are themselves merchants. They buy grains where it is cheaply available and carry it to places where it is dearer. From there they again reload their oxen with anything that can be profitably sold in other places. In a Tanda, there may be as many as 600 or 700 persons. They do not travel more than 6 or 7 miles a day, that too in cool weather. After unloading their oxen, they turn them free to graze, as there is enough land here and no one there to what is this given? Forbid them, to stop them, that is. So, here the description is given about Banjaras, how they travel from one place to another and what they carry, and they travel along with their wives and children. And in a Tanda, how many families are there? They travel with their oxen, okay, where they get, see, in a Tanda there may be many as 600 or 700 persons, okay, and they do not travel more than 6 or 7 miles and they travel in cool weather only. So, where they get the cheap products, they buy and they sell it for profit. In this way they survive. Nomads and inherit groups. Nomads are wandering people, many of them are pastoralists who roam from one pasture to another with their flocks and herds. Similarly, there it inherit groups such as craft persons, peddlers and entertainers travel from one place to place practicing their different occupations. Both nomads and groups often visit the same places every year. Now we saw about Banjaras. What is Tanda? How they travel. Now many pastoral tribes reared and sold animals such as cattle and horses to the prosperous people. Different castes of petty peddlers also travelled from village to village. They made and sold wares such as ropes, reeds, straw matting and coarse sacks. Sometimes mendicants acted as wandering merchants. There were castes of entertainers who performed in different towns and villages for their livelihood. Now many pastoral tribes, they reared and sold animals. They domesticate and they sold the animals such as cattle and horses to very prosperous, means rich people. Different castes of petty peddlers also travelled from village to village. They made and sold wares such as, they used to make ropes, reeds, straw matting and coarse sacks, and they used to sell. These were castes of entertainers who performed in different towns and villages for their livelihood. They were entertainers also. Changing society. New castes and hierarchies. As the economy and the needs of society grew, people with new skills were required. Smaller castes or jatis emerged within varnas. For example, new castes appeared amongst the Brahmanas. On the other hand, many tribes and social groups were taken into caste-based society and given the status of jatis. Specialized artisans, smiths, carpenters and masons were also recognized as separate jatis by the Brahmanas. Jatis rather than varna became the basis for organizing society. Now changing society, we are learning about changing societies. Now new castes and hierarchies have developed, new ranks are given. As economy and the needs of society grew, people with new skills were required. Smaller castes or jatis emerged within varnas. For example, new castes appeared amongst the Brahmanas. On the other hand, many tribes and social groups were taken into caste based society and given the status of jatis. So specialized. Now here we learnt about Vishwakarma Panchalas like smiths, carpenters, masons who were included, and here artisans, smiths, carpenters, masons were also recognized as separate jatis by the Brahmanas. Now jatis rather than varna became the basis on organizing society. Now deliberations on jati. What is deliberation? Means we are discussing, long discussions. A 12th century inscription from Uyakondam Udayar in Tiruchirappalli Taluka in present day Tamil Nadu describes the deliberations in the Sabha, that is chapter 2 of Brahmanas. They deliberated on the status of group known as Rathkaras, as literally chariot makers. Rathkaras means those who make the chariots, Rath. They laid down their occupations which were to include architecture, building coaches and chariots, erecting gateways for the temples with images in them, preparing wooden equipment used to perform sacrifices, building mandapas, making jewels for the kings. So some other jatis it is described who make the raths, that is chariots and other things. So in this way, let us stop here. In the next session, we will continue with the same lesson. So read the lesson till where we have completed Page number 96 we have completed. So, read it properly, and in the next session we will continue with the same chapter. So, bye. Thank you.